Chris Hoke, brought to you by Greater Pittsburgh Plumbing, sitting right across from me, adjacent to Ron. Hokie, how are you?
It's great to be here with you. I tell you, I was looking forward to it. I woke up this morning just fired up. Cook, don't you do that every day?
Oh, here
and
we
you get
go.
the pleasure
It's
of
getting
being with
deep.
Starkey every day.
Yeah, I don't quite wake up with that same
You don't
feeling.
like it when you come in and he goes,
No,
"Eek," and
no.
he does his little stretch?
I don't quite look at the excitement level the way you do working with him. I got to do it every day for 4 hours.
That's a lot.
Boy,
That's a lot to take.
the forlorn nature of his response there really depresses me now.
Well,
but Hokie, nobody.
I thought you two were better than that, until that comment. Now I'm a little
I know,
concerned
it
about
hurt.
the relationship.
But you help us with your enthusiasm.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to
fired up.
I'm going to hit you right off the bat again. Third week in
Third
a row.
week in a row, you're coming right at me.
Yeah, we're not starting with
Let's go.
softballs here. We're
Let's do
starting with Melvin Ingram.
Yeah, how about that?
The way that I read it,
Happened fast too.
he seemed to have quit on his teammates here. What's your take on
it?
it?
It appears to be that way, right? And the thing that's interesting to me is he made comments when he first came here in the spring. He knew the situation. He knew what it was. And I think as you start to play, maybe he's thinking he's playing pretty well. And this is a show-me year for him. He's on a one-year contract. He's hoping he's still 32. That's a little older in the NFL, as you know, but maybe he can get another contract. So I got to get in the game. I got to show teams what I can do. Maybe I can get another 2 or 3 year contract, make a few $1 million. And he didn't like with the situation. He didn't like that, Highsmith was playing over him. He thought he was better. That's the problem sometimes is when you think you're a little better than you are and it takes over reality for you.
Is it unusual for guys that are not going to play because they're not injured to not go to the game? Do you have to go? Is that a requirement, or you just kind
very
of
rarely do you
accept
see
that
a guy?
go?
Very rarely do you see a guy unless he's on IR.
Right.
Unless he's on IR or he's got a bad knee and you're going on the road and they want that knee to calm down. And so they say, hey, listen, we don't want to get swelling from the flight. So stay home this week. We'll get you back next week if it's a fresh knee injury. But when you have, I think, a groin like that, I don't know if I've ever seen that before, to be honest.
Well, we'll see if he's on the injury report for the
he
Chiefs
won't.
or if that
He won't.
magically cleared up, because there's a feeling that he, quite frankly, was faking it. But let me ask you, if you had to choose right now, you want to line up a defense this week, who is better? Who would you choose, Ingram or Highsmith?
Well, I mean, listen, you look at the numbers, both of their numbers. I mean, Highsmith makes some plays. And Ingram's made some plays, but they were early. When he played the last few weeks, take out the game last week against Cleveland, but a few weeks before that, before the bye, nothing really. And even when they would go Hayward down, only down lineman down. They'd have T.J. Watt. They would have Melvin Ingram. They'd have Alex Highsmith. They didn't get much more than they got with another D lineman in there, to be honest with you. It didn't really produce. I mean, from what I've seen on film, it didn't produce much. And so, to me, the only thing that you'll miss, to me, it hurts Steelers a little bit with depth. I do believe that Melvin is better than the other backups. So now, if T.J. Watt goes down, if Alex Highsmith goes down for a game or two, or heaven forbid for the rest of the season, now you're looking at guys that just they aren't on the level as Melvin Ingram.
What did you think of Taco? Played like 10 snaps the other day.
I mean, I don't think he did anything spectacular. I don't think he did anything horrible.
They apparently Tomlin talked him up. Now,
well, I think he did enough to show that
this
enough that he wasn't a guy that was going to kill the team, right? I think he's serviceable at this point.
I think he should have gotten credit for the sack that Wormley got. If you look at the video,
yeah.
If you look at the video,
to me
he's
that
the
was more
last
of a
guy.
coverage sack, anyways.
Yeah, and Baker just went down.
Yeah,
but he was
dropped.
there.
He was there. Yeah. So you would have been there too because he dropped, right?
So
I mean, Baker went down. Baker didn't even try to get away because of his shoulder, right? Baker was told, you saw a couple times when he scrambled. He didn't want to take on any hits. He dropped a couple times because he didn't want that shoulder to get blown up. And then tell Hayden hit him hard on the sideline. That went late in the game, right? He blasted him. No flag. But he didn't want to take those hits.
He can't possibly have fewer quarterback hits than Ingram had in 3 of his last 4 starts because the number was 0. So I guess neither could I. So maybe I still figure Taco.
Oh, yeah.
Or me. Or
listen,
you.
We'll see what happens. But the reality is those guys are going to, out of necessity, going to have to step up. And I have a lot of confidence in the coaching. Keith Butler, great coach. Coach Tomlin's going to coach these guys up. They'll be ready to play on Sunday. They won't be at the level of a T.J. Watt, the level of Alex Highsmith, but they'll be able to come in and give some snaps for a breather and let those guys get back in the game.
Well, you brought up Baker, and I got a couple Baker questions for you. Should he have played? How did you think he played? He said he went down a couple times early.
Yeah.
His receivers didn't help him, and we're going to get into that in just
He made some
second.
throws, but overall, I think that Keenum could have been a little better. Maybe Keenum could have escaped on some of those runs where Baker went down. Or, to me, Baker wasn't exciting, but he hasn't been exciting all year, right? I mean, was he any different than he's been all year? He hasn't been a top tier quarterback. He's been average, in my opinion.
Well, the other question is, did you hear what Odell Beckham Sr.,
Yeah, I heard that.
Jr.'s dad did?
OBJ's getting open. Baker's not playing.
11-minute video showing he's open here, open here, open here. Baker's avoiding him. Yeah. What does that do in a locker room?
It doesn't do anything positive.
I
mean, it doesn't.
What is Baker going to say?
It doesn't help.
What's the coach going to say?
That probably does more to the locker room than, or just as much as what Ingram was doing here at the Steelers, or would have continued to do. That causes trouble. Right, and you don't want friction right now, especially when they're trying to fight to get back in, to the playoff contention. Right now, they're at the bottom of the division, and so they're trying to fight and come together. And when you have a guy like OBJ, who I guarantee you has a lot of influence in that locker room, for his dad to do that, I would be disappointed in my dad. I mean, even though his dad's doing it with good intentions, right? He's just trying to point out that, hey, it isn't my son. He's trying to protect his son, but that doesn't help in the locker room.
Speaking of that, let's go back to Melvin Ingram, because I'm really curious about this. And you don't have to name names, but was there ever a situation with a guy during your Steelers tenure, and you had all those veteran leaders in that room, where a guy was disgruntled, where he was doing something that wasn't good for the team, where people pulled him aside and said, get your blank together here? And should that have happened? Could that have happened here?
I don't think so here. A little different. He just came in. Right, and so the relationships, to my knowledge, aren't as strong. I can think of a couple situations that never got this big. That I don't want to point out. Like you said, I'm not going to point out names. I can think of a couple situations. The guys have been here for a while, right? And so there were relationships. They were leaders on our team. Melvin came in, and I don't know how deep some of these relationships are. And so I think a lot of guys were, and I don't think he was at a point where he would listen to anybody, right? Sometimes you got these guys who just don't want to fall in line with the team.
So how would it work with you guys? Do you have a group meeting then? Does James Ferrier pull him aside? How did it work?
I mean, I was never one of those top leader guys, but yeah, you have guys that pull them aside. You have guys that say, let's go. Or there's guys also that understand, hey, this is how it is. Like, these guys are disgruntled and they agree with why they're upset about it. I never seen anything during the season like this before, though. They were an off season. Right, and so it kind of, you let things play out a little more and let them go, and you don't get involved in people's money. They were over contract, not over playing time or feeling like they misunderstood the situation when they came in. But like I said, I've never seen anything during the season. It was always off season.
The Steelers did a nice job stopping the run.
Yeah,
I didn't feel like Cleveland ran enough, especially in the first half. They have the number one rushing team. Was that a product of them just being frustrated by the defense? What did you see? I think Chubb had 6 carries in the first half.
Yeah,
that's not enough.
It's not enough. I mean, Baker Mayfield threw the ball 17 times in the first half, and they ran the ball 10 times. It's almost 2-1. That's not a recipe for winning,
especially for that team.
Yeah, I mean, they were coming into this game. Their other offense, they were average throwing the ball, 27th in the NFL throwing the ball, and they were number 1 in the NFL running the ball. And they come in and they go 2-1 throwing the ball. It just didn't make sense. And I thought when I was watching the game down at KDKA in preparation for the post-game show, I thought that you would see kind of what the Seahawks did against the Steelers. Remember where they threw the ball too much with Geno in the first half, and Pete Carroll said, we're going to run the ball. And they came out and they ran the ball. And did they run the ball? And I thought they were going to do that, the Browns. And they came out and run the ball, but they didn't have success. The Steelers did a good job at the point of attack. A little bit better. I thought that the linebackers played better. I think a week off of watching film and Keith Butts and Coach Tomlin get on these linebackers to play, that we talked about. They were flowing a little bit better, playing downhill a little more. And so they were ready. Also, guys, let me tell you this. The Cleveland Browns haven't had success. There's only one game in, 7 games that Nick Chubb has played against the Steelers where he's had over 100 yards.
He had a big game in January, unfortunately.
That's the only game. But it did. That's the worst possible time to have him. But,
right.
Coming into this game, I think he played in 6 games against the Steelers and only averaged 58 yards, had 1 touchdown run.
Yeah, I think Romo saw it differently. I saw it a little differently. I
Yeah.
think they came out and confused the Steelers at first by throwing every first down. They went right down the field. They had a wide open touchdown that either Baker made a bad throw or Hooper.
Highsmith missed him in the flat. Didn't run.
Yeah, I mean, it should have been a touchdown.
Yeah, should
so
have
then
been.
we would have been talking about how they fooled the Steelers on the
Yeah,
opening
Boswell
drive.
should have been a touchdown too if they weren't covering the receiver in the end zone.
Well, it's a little
No, I'm
different
teasing.
when a guy's wide open. To
No,
me.
I know.
You know?
What I'm saying is, but I mean, that's part of the game, right? Overthrows, and Baker's been errant with his passes all season, right?
Right.
I mean, so that, to me, that's not a gimme.
To me, that's still a ball that your tight end has to catch. Not to mention late in the game, Landry dropped 2 and
Yeah.
OBJ grew alligator.
There were a
arms
lot
on
of
one.
drops late in the game. We can talk about that late in the game. I mean, Jarvis dropped a couple passes, and he had that fumble. Which was with the difference in the game, in my opinion. It was a difference in the game. Those 2 big drops by a veteran like Jarvis, who doesn't drop balls. The guy's a good football player. He's a professional. I've always enjoyed watching Jarvis Landry play football. He's tough too, and he caught the ball. He dropped it on that fumble, and Schoberg ripped it out. Dropped a couple balls. That was a big deal. But you're right. Baker wasn't on target. He didn't have a great game against the Steelers. What was he in this game? He was 20 for 31.
See, I thought he should have been 25, 26 of 31 myself.
That's a routine
Receivers
throw.
let him down.
They dropped. There were some drop balls, but that one I don't think it was on the receiver. It was high. And Highsmith should have picked him up.
I think there was some speculation that after the Steelers traded Ingram, they might try to do something more, maybe even bring in somebody, a defensive lineman.
Yeah.
How did Wormley and those guys do? Are they getting any better? It's still Cam, or is it still Cam against the world?
Oh no, they played better in this game. What I would like to see, they didn't fall behind. At times they got blocked, they got underneath blocks, but they did much better of playing down the line, staying on their feet, staying front side. For the most part, Cam's still an animal. I mean, Cam,
He's tremendous.
He's tremendous. And you know what? I'll tell you, I've been hard on Devin Bush, and I've been hard on Joe Schobert. Devin Bush in the first half showed me something. 4th and 1, first play of the second quarter,
Big
he came
play.
downhill, right? But then we want to see consistency here, right? He made a great play, 4th and 1, first hitter, T.J. Watkins screaming down the line to help him on the tackle. But then you get in the game, and in the first touchdown of the third quarter, I think it was the first drive of the Browns in the third quarter, he reads it beautifully. Inside linebacker, you play inside out, not out. You don't overrun. He completely overran Dearness Johnson. Boop, touchdown. And so, I mean, he's, so consistency, right? He had 5 tackles in the first half, 0 in the second half. So but what I like to see is I felt like he was playing downhill in this game, and so that's what I love to see is that he linebackers don't play lateral, they play downhill.
Do you think they have a player in Loudermilk?
I think Loudermilk. I mean, he's a rookie. I mean, you're gonna. We've seen him make plays, right? Has he been consistent? No, but the guy's he's young. I think he has a lot of. They're excited about Loudermilk. I think he has a lot of potential. Right, and I think the more reps he gets, the better he'll get, and he'll work through them. He's going to make mistakes, but I think overall it's been positive with what Loudermilk's doing.
What about the secondary? Where no turnovers again? They're just not forcing turnovers. That's got it. Well, I guess the one fumble.
One fumble,
but,
and I think they knocked the ball out another time or two as well.
They got to get it. When are the interceptions going to start?
You know what? And Coach Tomlin talked about this. It's when teams get behind and they're forcing throws, right? These games, the Steelers aren't getting way ahead or up by 10, 14 points and making teams force throws. And they have a couple times, but for the most part, they've been fight them out games. And what you do is you get teams behind the chains when it's a close ball game or when they're down and they're trying to make something happen and the quarterbacks are forcing throws.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But then I also look back at Minka's 2 of his biggest plays here, and they're at the beginnings of games that helped lead to that situation. Yeah. One was on Baker Mayfield for a touchdown.
Yeah.
The other was the 100-yarder against the Colts. Those were tight games that he turned in the Steelers' direction. I'm waiting for that.
Yeah, I think Minka's been playing much better. I think he's doing things. He had a big stop there on 4th down there in the fourth quarter.
They seemed to tackle better, didn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, a one touchdown run, I guess Bush overran it.
A couple times today, I feel like this, Cookie. A couple times I was watching the film again this morning in preparation for the show, and there were some missed tackles. And what I can hear in my mind's ear and see in my mind's eye, Coach Cower, bring your arms, wrap up. Guys, I don't understand, guys. They don't teach that. It's like a lost art. Guys come and try to get the big hit, right? Throw the shoulder, and guys just go boop, and they make a miss. Bring your arms, wrap up. TJ Watt's the best at that. He comes out and he's trying to chop the ball. He's wrapping. And you're seeing a lot of, especially at second and third level, you're seeing guys coming downhill and just trying to use the shoulder to knock guys up. And you miss tackles. It increases the percentage or the chance of you missing a tackle. And you saw that.
I love his Cower imitations.
It's awesome.
Hoke!
Oh, man. You just did that. You made my hair go up my neck here.
Were you on the field goal block team when you played?
I was.
We're going to ask you about that coming up. But first, real quick, as you're combing the film, you have to answer this question for me. The one time Chubb got out of the gates, it was a 21-yard run.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah Buggs got called for holding on the defensive line. Yeah. The guy had him wrapped
teaser,
up
you want to talk about it?
In a bear hug right now. It looked like he got held.
Oh, it was a terrible call. Terrible call. The guy had his arm around Buggs.
Yes.
I've been called for holding as a nose tackle. I mean, I've been guilty of that a few times because our responsibility as a nose tackle is keep the offensive lineman off the linebackers. So you grab them, you run on the line, and you held them just a little too long. But I held centers every play, right? That was my job, to let James Ferrier, Larry Foote, and those guys run, right? And that's what we did as nose tackles. A little different now, but still, he wasn't even holding the guy. He didn't even have a jersey or anything. It was the center or the guard that was holding him.
Yes,
and it was a bad call. That was on top of. Trying to think what happened. What was the situation there? I remember I can see the play in my mind, but what was they went for that long run. And
21 yards, I think.
Yeah.
And then they just declined the holding.
That was unbelievable. There's a couple of other calls I want to ask you about, but we're also, is it champing at the bit or chomping at the bit?
Chomping.
Chomping?
Yeah, we're chomping.
Chomping at the
chomping.
bit.
There's horse, right? Chomp.
I want to know on this fake field goal, a lot of different things. Should Boswell have gotten out of it? Should Tomlin have called timeout? What you think of the call? All of that coming up. Chris Hoke,